Hi all, welcome to Module 5, Monitoring Your Savings Plan. Let's quickly summarise what we've covered so far. In Week 1, you set up your goals in a way to amp up your motivation. Week 2, you set your income and expenses to come up with your cash flow surplus. In Week 3, we linked your goals and your cash flow surplus to try and set a path forward. Week 4, we talked about how to structure an account to make sure that you're actually saving money. And this week, we'll start to monitor everything to make sure you're sticking to plan. Why is monitoring important? It has two main advantages. If you monitor something, it generally improves. This is because if you're aware of something and have the information and knowledge, you can take that into account into your decisions. The second reason why monitoring is important is if something goes wrong, alarm bells will start to ring. And you can adjust before it's too late. The method doesn't all that much matter, as long as it does the following. Accurately show your expenses, is something that you're willing to do, and compares actual versus forecast. There are heaps of free apps out there. If you're a member of the Savvy Savers community, then I'd love for you to share your favourite. However, I have built one into the savings plan that you've got. Before we get into it, I just wanted to stress again what I pointed out last module. That structure is more important. Structure is something that will help you work out if you're overspending before you actually spend the money. Monitoring is something that helps you, once you've already spent the money, see what's going on. But let's get into it. So open up your budget planner. The first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to unlock the spreadsheet. So go into, up the top, Review, and Unprotect Sheet. And the password is Savings Matter, one word. And it should unlock so that when you type something in, it's not going to throw up an error. So you should be looking at something like this. There's a lot of blank spaces. It's quite a long spreadsheet. The first thing you need to do is hide all the rows that you're not going to use. Make it a bit neater. So you highlight the columns that aren't applicable. So all the ones with blanks, no annual budget attached. You right click on the header and hit hide. And you do that the whole way down. And you just hide these rows. Okay, once you've hidden everything, it should look like this. A column for your income, and then the accounts that you've chosen. So for me, it's the offset account, which is paying for my mortgage and car loan, the bills account, which is paying for my bills, the living account, which is my groceries, dining out, cash allowance, and the irregular stuff. So then the next thing you need to do is update the current month. So if it's July, or if you're looking at this in October, you might update that to October. So it says October 16. Then you drag this little square at the bottom right, once you have that cell selected, drag that square all the way across, and it'll update all the other months for you, just so that you know which month you're working on. Then, at the end of the month, what you need to do is you need to grab your bank statements. You need to grab your bank statements and start filling in actuals in these columns here, or cells here. The first thing you need to do is grab your bank statements and start taking the actuals from the bank statements into the spreadsheet. So, you're looking for after-tax income hitting your bank account. So you can get that off your spreadsheet or your bank statement. It'll typically be in that top level bank account, the offset. What you do is you just start plugging it in. So say in October, you earned 9,110. You'll start to see that there's a positive variance there. That'll turn green once we have everything else in. It's just red because everything else is 100% positive variance at the moment. So you start to plug things in. Mortgage, you might have paid $3,000. Car loan might have been $150. And down the list from the amount in your bank account to the amount into the bills account. Once you've done that, it should look something like this, where you've got your income tracking 3% ahead of plan, which is good. You've got your expenses tracking and interest rate reductions happen, so you pay a little bit less there. And you've got all the rest of the expenses, and you can see what you're over and what you're under, where you're going well and where you're going poorly. This will give you a snapshot, budget versus actual. How much should have you spent on this item? How much have you actually spent on this item? And it allows you to make decisions and not get carried away. As you can see down here, we've saved $3,100 when we only expected to save $2,000. But it's important not to get carried away, and you've got the information to allow you to make sense of that. Why you've saved an extra $1,000. You've saved an extra $1,000 because you haven't spent any money on the holidays or the medical, and you haven't done your tax yet, so the accounting fee's not there. But everything else is in the red, so you can start to kind of think, oh, well, maybe I'm not actually in front, despite the fact that the bank balance looks good. If I was to spend the money on the holidays, $1,800 on that, and I had some medical expenses to pay, all of a sudden I wouldn't be in front anymore. I'd actually be behind. Why is that? Well, predominantly because I'm not quite getting there on car maintenance, and short breaks have been a little bit more, and dining alcohol and entertainment has been a little bit more, but that's kind of offset a little bit by dining out that hasn't happened. Spent a little bit more in cash allowances, and the vets cost me a little bit more. So you can kind of get a feel for where you're at, and that's really what this is about. It's really just playing, putting in the numbers, getting the knowledge that you're going to need to make better decisions going forward. Now, I've set this up for mine that it automates from my bank balance, so I can just I can download my bank account transaction list as a Excel spreadsheet, put it in this, and it kind of automatically filters through what's going on. But that's got to be a case-by-case basis, because what you download off the internet's different for each type of bank, so I can't just give you one generic one for that. But you might find something similar, or you might be able to muck around with it and work something out there. And that's it for monitoring your budget. Next week, we're going to look at going beyond a budget. A budget will only take you so far. So we'll look at what can go wrong, and how can you protect yourself. And what about the savings inside your superannuation? What should you do with them? And your longer term savings, the money that you're saving for longer term goals. We'll cover all of that off next week. Until then, I'd love to hear what you're thinking about the e-course. Other than that, I'll see you next week.